How can we expect to be the salt of the earth when we're in an ocean of madness? Just thinking of that term, salt of the earth, it just means a good, honest person or group of people. And it's something that I aspire to be part of. Groups of people who want to be honest, kind, empathetic, understanding, but still stand up for themselves, still know how to navigate the reality of the world, without pretending like there isn't hardship, or that sometimes we don't have to be mean or stand up for ourselves. This idea of integrity and honesty seems to be lost on the world that we live in right now, even though this has always been a feature of humans, that there has always been some group of society that is dishonest and makes it difficult for the rest of the people who are honest. In general, you would think over a period of time we would mend our ways, and as lives became easier for the average person, we would find ways to make more of an honest living. And most people do want to make an honest living. Most people have no intention of stealing from other people or imposing on other people's lives, whether it be their will or financial obligations. Most people don't want to make their own way. They want to feel like they have purpose, like they have drive. And part of that is honesty, being able to run an honest business or being an honest person. And I was thinking about what reacts with salt as the term salt of the earth, and the best I could come up with was water, because all the honesty, all this, truth and justice and fairness is drowned out by this ocean of madness swirling around us constantly, which is only a few people really making the waves, for lack of a better term. It's always a small group of people who make a majority of the problems. Minority of the people create a majority of the problems most of the time, because the will of the people has never really been considered unless it's election season, and then it's a matter of just getting people to vote for you. But we know that we're not really represented in that way. There are different class structures, different political structures, and within these structures there are the blue-collar workers, the white-collar workers, there's the politicians, there is the priests and the whatever you call them. I can't recall the term for it at the moment, but within all of these different tiers of society, there are different levels of honesty and dishonesty. And within the white-collar work, there's people who do a really good job, they're honest, they put out good work, and they become millionaires for it. And they continue to put out good work and be honest and produce something of value for the world. Then there are the techtrepreneurs that just want to make a product merely to sell it. The idea of this is something kind of new to our generations, is more recent generations, is the intention of starting a business merely so you can sell it. This happens all the time on the internet too now, with YouTube channels and Facebook pages and everything else. People will start these pages, and the idea is to get traffic, to get people who want to buy your product, so you can turn right around and sell it to a larger company that will probably just run it into the ground or not give a damn anyway. This is how we have hedge funds buying out houses and everything else. It's a crazy world that we live in right now. It really is. And I think it goes deeper than a lot of folks want to realize, that this isn't just like maybe one rich guy owning all the houses in an area. This is a rich guy across the world owning houses in your neighborhood. And but many of these acquired assets are done through very dishonest business means, tricks, manipulation, lies. It's amazing to me that we're listening to Congress talk about banning TikTok, yet they're letting Chinese people, officials buy up farmland, buy up housing tracts here in the U.S., entire states. If I'm not mistaken, I think Idaho's owned majority by like Chinese shareholders. It's it's kind of funny when you look at it, and for what we've created, this illusion of this functioning world that, I mean, it functions, don't get me wrong. We're making it happen, we're making it work, but we're all blinded to it. I relate it to the consciousness problem. They say because we're conscious, we can't study consciousness accurately. This is true. Well, since we are the observer in our own lives, it's hard to observe our consciousness without being biased. Well, in the same way, it's hard to observe what's going on in the world because we've been part of it since we were born. We bought into this monetary system. We don't know if Bitcoin's really better than the dollar. Come on, let's really get down to it, I mean, out of 99.999% of all of you out there, whether you support Bitcoin or don't like Bitcoin, whether you support certain candidates or other candidates, whatever it might be, politically, financially, you don't know shit, right? I mean, we only know what we've read, I've read tons of books about finance. I read this Creature from Jekyll Island by Edward Griffin, which was like 900 pages about the Federal Reserve, Jekyll Island. There's one called The Creature from Jekyll Island. There was one. There's another book too about finance. It's called Capital by Thomas Piketty. But I've done my best to educate myself on socialism, on capitalism, on communism, on the various isms that we have out there, because to me it's what people attach themselves to. And when people talk about being, say, salt of the earth, being good people, they often attach it and attribute it to the group that they're part of, which to me is kind of interesting, because if the rest of the group isn't acting accordingly, then you either have to kick them out or learn to assimilate these new ways of thinking within the group, if that makes sense. And it's kind of like the way that many religions won't change over a long period of time, because they don't want to perceive things in a different way, because it complicates issues, rather than just fluctuating with the times and adjusting as we go. People need a solid framework to work on, a moral groundwork, if you will, and that's what, say, the Bible is all about for some people. I know I'm not a Bible thumper myself. I've read many parts of it. I haven't read the whole thing, and I'm not a Christian, but I know many people who are, and I used to argue with people incessantly about the Bible, saying, it's a waste of time. Why bother? You don't even understand it unless you read Hebrew. And I still stand by the fact that if I was Christian, I would learn Hebrew, because if I truly believed that my eternal soul in going to heaven depended on me understanding God, and at the same time I believed that the way to know God was through that one book, and I also knew that one book was originally written in Hebrew, you're damn right I would put all my time into learning Hebrew, because I want to know how to read it on its own accord. It doesn't mean that people aren't adherent, Christians just because they don't know Hebrew. I'm saying that there's always going to be a degree of dedication people have to certain groups and belief systems, and I think we're all just kind of like, well, maybe not on a lot of things. But anyhow, that's what I mean about just not being quite sure. And the thing about like finances, we don't really know whether Bitcoin is going to survive. We don't know if it's going to double or halve in the next 6 months. Nobody knows. And one of the things that, for humans, to come full circle here, back to honesty and integrity and being salt of the earth, one of the hardest things for humans to do that I've acknowledged over the last several years of observing people and talking with folks, people don't want to admit when they're wrong, something I've always known. We've all seen it a million times. It's so much more painful for somebody to say, I just made a mistake, than to just they'd rather spend the pain of trying to justify something over and over and over without saying, I screwed up. It's just weird. And if they do change their mind, they're called a flip-flopper instead of, showing, hey, I've changed my mind. That's a good thing, right? When you receive new information. And we do it all the time, but often don't get the credit that we really should for being able to change our mind on a topic that we want to believe something else about. So there are certain, for example, liberal values that I've always believed that I've learned to be incorrect in my assessment of them. And I don't celebrate that. I'm bummed out because I'd actually rather believe that most people are kind, or human nature is this, or spirituality means that. I'm very cautious about people who pretend they know what's going on. So, and I think part of being honest really just means to say you don't know. And the more often you can do it, the better off you'll be. Don't partake in a discussion that you don't know anything about and pretend like you're an expert. You're just going to look like an idiot. But if you do get called out and get in that situation, then be willing to say, instead of saying, well, no, you don't know what you're talking about, you're just a liberal, you're just a conservative, say, hey, teach me. Help me learn. Help me to understand this topic and what's going on. I mean, it's just common sense, right? If you don't know something, you ask. If we stop seeing everyone else as a potential enemy or combatant and see other people as teachers, even if it may be a person that we never would think would be a teacher. Imagine if you live your life by saying, what lesson can I learn from this person at this time? And how can it benefit me? But how can it benefit them? And how can it benefit others? Those are my thoughts for the day. I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll talk to you next time. Be the salt of the earth. Don't get drowned out by an ocean of madness. Lucy's chasing a squirrel. Good luck. Good luck. See y'all next time.